When you keep promises to yourself, the world will notice. There once was a person in their 20s, early 30s, living life on autopilot. They were going through the motions, just like many of us do, day in and day out. Going to school, working a job that doesn't fulfill them, hanging out with friends and partying every weekend. But something inside them was telling them there had to be more. One morning, this person woke up earlier than they needed to. Their alarm was set for 6 a.m., but they were awoken by a sudden burst of motivation. As they sat up in bed, they noticed how dark it still was outside. The sky was filled with a million possibilities, much like the potential that lay dormant within them. And for the first time in a long time, they felt a surge of excitement and purpose. This was their opportunity to seize the day and make something of themselves. So they got out of bed, stretched and yawned as they began to plan their day. They knew exactly what they needed to do. For years, they'd been putting off personal growth, self-improvement, and facing their fears because they were scared. Scared of failing, scared of not being good enough, scared of not living up to their own expectations. But now that fire had been lit within them, they knew they couldn't afford to waste any more time. First things first, they needed to get some exercise. As the sun began to peek over the horizon, casting its golden glow over the city, they laced up their running shoes and headed out the door. The crisp morning air filled their lungs as they pounded the pavement, their feet echoing their determination. Every step was a testament to their commitment to themselves, a promise that they wouldn't give up no matter what. After their run, they came home and showered, feeling refreshed and ready to tackle the day. As the day wore on, they worked hard, studied late into the night, learning everything they could about their craft. They immersed themselves in their studies, poring over books and articles, absorbing knowledge like a sponge. They didn't care about the long hours or the late nights. They were too focused on their goal. But it wasn't always easy. There were times when the temptation to quit was almost too much to bear. When the going got tough, they thought about all the times they'd let themselves down in the past. They thought about all the opportunities they'd missed out on because they were unprepared or simply not good enough. They thought about how much it would hurt if their loved ones, their family and friends, were disappointed in them. And that's when they dug deep, summoning up every ounce of strength they had left. They pushed through the pain, the fatigue, and the self-doubt. They reminded themselves why they started in the first place. And then, slowly but surely, they began to see progress. At first, it was just a little glimmer of hope, a small victory that seemed insignificant in the grand scheme of things. But as they continued to push forward, that glimmer grew into a full-fledged flame, burning brightly in the darkness. With each passing day, they became stronger, more resilient, and more determined than ever before. Now we fast forward to a year later. The very same person is standing in the same spot where they began their journey. But they are a changed person. Now, when they look up at the sky, they see not just endless possibilities, but also a reflection of their own growth. They know that they are capable of anything. Their journey hasn't been easy. There were times when they wanted to give up, when the weight of their goals seemed like too much to bear, but they kept going. They pushed through the pain and the doubt because they had made a promise to themselves. A promise to become the best version of themselves. As the months went by, they continued to learn and grow. They faced their fears head-on, took risks, and celebrated their successes. Through it all, they remained focused on their goals and never lost sight of their vision. They learned that the only person standing in the way of their success was themselves. They learned that the only limits they had were the ones they imposed on themselves. They realized that in order to achieve their goals, they had to change. They had to become a different person. It wasn't easy, but they were willing to put in the work. They developed new habits and routines. They read books on personal development and listened to podcasts. They surrounded themselves with positive people who believed in them and supported their goals. It wasn't just their mindset that changed. Their physical body went through a transformation as well. They hit the gym, ate clean, and got in shape. They learned that taking care of their body was just as important as taking care of their mind. As they continued to grow and evolve, they began to attract new opportunities into their life. They met new people who shared their interests and passions. They gained recognition for their skills and expertise. They started to see the results of their hard work and dedication. One day, they were approached by someone they had long admired. This person was a leader in their field and someone they had looked up to for years. The leader offered them an opportunity to work on a project that was important to them, something that would put their skills and talents to the test. At first, they were hesitant. They weren't sure if they were ready. But with the support of their new friends and mentors, they decided to go for it. They threw themselves into the project, working tirelessly to make it a success. They put everything they had learned over the past year into practice, and the results were amazing. The project was a huge success, and they were recognized for their contributions. It was a pivotal moment in their journey, a turning point that showed them that they had arrived. As the news of their success spread, others began to take notice. Old friends reached out to them, eager to reconnect and hear about their journey. Family members who had doubted them from the beginning expressed their pride and admiration. It was a humbling experience that brought a sense of validation and satisfaction. But perhaps the most important recognition came from within themselves. They looked in the mirror and saw not just a changed person, but a better person. They saw someone who was confident and capable, someone who was passionate and driven, someone who was making a difference in the world. In the end, they realized that the real reward wasn't the recognition or the success, but the journey itself. They had discovered who they were meant to be, and that was the greatest accomplishment of all. So here's to those who dare to dream big, who have the courage to pursue their goals, and who make the commitment to themselves to succeed. Remember that the world is watching, and when you keep your promises to yourself, the world will notice.